Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to Hearthstone. So we're going through the arena run. We need to get 5 victories for the Shaman, and we're playing as the Shaman and we've got 1 loss. As kind of typical in arena runs, I'm at 6,200 gold, but 100 of that goes away when this arena run is done. So every 6 days I'm getting 1 to maybe 200 gold improvement. So every week 200 gold improvement. 5 weeks would get me up 1,000. I would then need
I will fight with
20 weeks.
Your soul
Wouldn't
shall
it be?
Be mine.
If my math is right. There are 52 weeks in a year. I don't think half a year counts. Well, so I don't think I'm gonna get back up to 10,000 at this rate. But we'll see what happens. Play this.
Job's done.
And in return. So
Side effects? No. Trust
let's see. We got a few things here that are just really small things that we should probably just cover now. PETA wants Warhammer characters to stop wearing furs. Apparently now is also part of that, because that was how the title in the article I read is. PETA has some weird lines of thinking as far as fiction. Apparently it's like all the Warhammer characters in all the games have literally killed and skinned 0 animals. We don't use animal products at all, I believe, to make video games. Like, nothing. Nothing at all. I could be wrong. Maybe there is some weird plastic or screw or semiconductor element that is actually used in the production of video games, but I don't believe so. If anything, I would guess that some of the plastics are made by soybeans and soybean oil. I bet it's pretty vegan friendly. So why are they coming after video games? You kind of have to just default, at least I do, to the thought that they are attacking video games in the same way that video games were attacked for corrupting the youth in the 80s and 90s. Same way music was attacked for corrupting the youth in the 80s, 90s, 70s, and 60s. Same way comic books were attacked for corrupting the youth into the early 20s and later. Arguably, I might actually agree with that one in a silly way. Because depending what you mean by the word corrupting, people who are into comic books sometimes can be awful annoying, but hardly corrupted. Yeah, I'm joking. Bagging on comic book fans. Just because I could never be one, probably. I tried, couldn't get into it. But it seems so silly.
Fine, I'll heal.
Just incredibly crazy for them to complain about furs in video games. Furs in video games set in fictional universes like Warhammer. For all I know about the history and the background of Warhammer, the furs they're wearing aren't even from animals. They may be from, like, oh, who knows? See, I guess I can get a free thing here, but I need to play this also, so I need to do
poking
this.
me.
I need to do this. And I need to do this. And then in the turn. PETA in previous occurrences has had a kind of hilarious game they made as a spoof of Cooking Mama, where it was Mama kills animals, and frankly I found it so funny I prefer to play that. Let's see. This here, this here, and this here. Get it out! Get it out! And then kill this. And then end the turn. If I can get this taunt character out, I might be able to save myself, but he only needs to do 3 damage. I'm pretty sure PETA did a couple of different things. The problem with PETA in particular is PETA ends up taking in a lot of animals and killing them. So it's they're not actually even very good at their own stated goals. They're kind of like the Susan G. Komen Foundation for Breast Cancer Awareness that takes millions of dollars and claims everything pink is copyrighted for them. But then they really don't fund any research for breast cancer or do anything. They just are taking a bunch of money, and it's a bad charity. PETA is a bad charity for its stated goal. And the bigger issue one could certainly make is, how does a person improve the lot of animals? And I don't really know. Is this a demon? I have to make sure this is a demon. Otherwise it won't work. If it's a demon, give it +3 health. Alright. So I'm gonna kill this. Kill this. Kill this. Kill this. And do this one. And the turn. That should work well.
Well played.
Get your pet spayed and neutered is really the right answer there. Don't buy pets from puppy mills or purebreds or anything like that. There's very little as far as people should starve out the demand for purebred animals. Purebred animals aren't healthier, they're actually less healthy than mixed breeds usually, just on average, because the purebreds have been so purebred that they've lost certain immunities and certain good traits that you can get from crossbreeding. The pug is a great example of that, of a species that was crossbred and then purebred so much that it now has respiratory problems and trouble breathing. So get your animal from a shelter, get them spayed and neutered. Take care of an animal only if you actually are an adult with a steady long-term financial situation and energy situation where you can walk that animal, play with them, and include them in your life, because you're practically adopting somebody from possibly 14-15 years. as far as a cat and dog. Don't get exotic animals. Reptiles, fish, things like that take a lot more work to keep alive. Don't get animals from the pet store, because those animals often are from mills, and even if they say they aren't, they might very well be. So be very careful there. If you end up going against my suggestion there, I would heavily recommend checking out the city pound. Go check out pounds a few months after Christmas,
Well
because
played.
that's about time that the people who get gifts of pets end up getting sending them right back to the pound. But I mean, that's about as much as you can do. As far as animals that aren't pets, if you insist, I suppose you can go vegan, and certainly we could eventually people will starve out
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
the high demand for meat and animal products. But what really is going to destroy the ability for those things is the fact that it's just not going to be capable of, the industry's not going to be able to maintain demand, and eventually we're all going to have to go vegan or eat cricket flour and stuff like that. It's all going to go to Soylent Green unless the population is severely decreased. So if you want to treat animals most ethically, go get a vasectomy. Go get your tubes tied, ladies or men. Don't have kids. A average American, I believe, in the United States eats 50 pounds of meat. So if you want to stop 50 pounds of meat per year for an average lifespan of, say, 65 years, that's how you do it. Don't have a kid. That would be the most ethical, most efficient way, and pretty easy way too, to treat animals properly. Eventually, I suppose we will also get to synthetic meat, and this won't be too much of a problem, but I suspect PETA would still want to get money, so they'll probably have a problem with lab-grown meat, which we are right on the cusp of fully developing the taste on that. We already have lab-grown meat. It's just a matter of how tasty is it, and it's not been the greatest so far, but they're getting better. If you eat a veggie burger, by the way, they usually are so full of fat that they're actually incredibly unhealthy for you. They're so full of like soybean lard or something like that to make the burger juicy. And there's a new synthetic blood that they put in synthetic meat that they're working on to have a healthier veggie burger. But anyways, that's PETA. Best ignored, I would say, as far as the group. There's really nothing more to say about it. I really do want to win here, so I don't want to blow this. It would be nice to not take losses and actually make it to at least 5 wins. The new chipset, the AMD Ryzen, R-Y-Z-E-N, I think is how I wrote it down. Chipset may skip the 6-core layout. I have a 6-core CPU, and honestly, you know, if Intel had skipped it too, it probably wouldn't have been able to afford an 8-core. But I don't think anybody's really going to make a game designed to use a 6-core. And if I'm playing a game, I'm kind of also working on this idea of 1, 2, 3,
Goody.
and then kill all these, and then play. Do I want another card?
What you want?
I'm just gonna end the turn and save 2 health. So yeah, this seems unlikely to me for the simple reason of I understand how binning works. If they are actually going to make AMD CPUs with 8 cores, and one of those cores underperforms, as it often happens, then victory. Wow. Nice.
I will be your death.
No, you won't. So if they make an 8 core and one of them underperforms, then in the Intel 6 core processor idea, they just go into that hardware and say, well, we will disable the one that's underperforming, and then we'll disable the next closest one that's underperforming, because they hopefully could get that level of detail out of their testing. And then they say, well, now we've made this thing that technically had 8 cores, we've removed some chips, we've removed a few fuses, probably internally blown a few fuses so they can't ever be used, and then they sell this as a 6 core. If AMD really makes 8 core processors and one of them underperforms, they're either going to then have to sell you an 8 core processor where one doesn't make what they're selling it as, which costs them a lot more money, or and is fraudulent, and would get them sued, or they now have to not only disable the one that underperforms, but find 3 more CPUs that underperform, that still meet the standards, but underperform than the top 4, and disable that too. So you've got the entire half of the chip going to waste. And see, that just doesn't make sense. That really doesn't make sense. And it is the reason, and I know AMD doesn't really do this as much, but it is clearly the reason why Intel, when it still comes out with CPUs, has this element of having 4 cores, 8 cores, 6 cores, 8 cores at 4.7 gigahertz, 8 cores at 4.8 gigahertz, 8 cores at 4.6. It's all the same stuff that they were trying to make it. Ideally, they would be able to make everything at the maximum speed that possible. So 8 cores at 5 gigahertz, let's say. But not all of the ones that come off the processing line actually can do that, and instead of having to reject a lot of silicone and a lot of chips that they've made and just write it off as a loss, they lower the speeds, they lower the number of the cores, and then they have 20 different SKUs, as they're called, and that's just for binning. That's the way it's gotta really be. Let's see, what was his health before? Do I want to deal 4 damage and discard the random card? If I am, I'm gonna do this first, and then we'll do this, and then we'll do this on the top. So yeah, I kind of doubt that the Rydo chipset actually will be only 4 and 8 cores, but maybe. There's also a rumor that Xbox One is losing snap mode, Now, I could understand people, the few people that actually use snap mode, being upset with that. But honestly, for everybody else, you should be kind of happy with the implication that means. Because snap mode in the Xbox One was reserving resources so you could have like a music player, a Twitter app, maybe a Facebook app, simple things like that, running side by side with your game. That's not really ideally what I would like. I would much prefer on any console a solo mode. It would be probably nice to turn snap mode on if you are actually using those things, but some level of resources are getting taken away, and I'd rather the consoles put 100% of its resources. Remember, the Xbox One and the Xbox, it felt like they were saying up to 30% of the RAM and CPU was going directly towards running the Kinect and all of those features. If that's really the case, that's a lot. That is definitely a lot of resources getting taken away on a machine that, because consoles don't compare to a $2,000 or $5,000 PC gaming, they're already kind of limited in that, from that perspective. So them then being even more limited doesn't set a good stage. I wanna, I guess, hold on to this guy, and then he might be my victory play. Death Threat will do 1 damage to everybody. And Wind Fury. And take this. And heal. And take this. Death Threat will draw a card. This one will do 3 damage, so I still need a little bit more damage to do. I wouldn't mind if it lost snap mode. The rest of the Xbox One update, it seems like they changed the update. Destroy all cards, draw a card for each. Ooh. Well, he's got 10 cards in his deck. He's gonna have how many left? Deal 5 damage to all characters. I can't do both, but we can do this. In turn.
My hand is too full.
See, now he's down to 8 cards. So it was telling me he had 10 cards, I guess, after he drew all the ones. So another victory. Somehow I have stupidly landed in here into a decent arena run. And let's see, I only have... Well, I have a couple things I could probably stretch out here in the next recording. Otherwise, we'll just go quiet, which kind of sucks, but whatever. YouTube has introduced a new creator on the Rise program. And what it does is it seems for a couple of days like it's going to highlight 2 creators that are over 1,000 subs and 2 artists that are over 1,000 subs, which is kind of cool. This is probably the highest victory I've ever gotten in Arena. Can I see that? Platinum Key wins 6. Oh, how did I get a 6-win victory at some point? And I'll talk a little bit more about the Creator on the Rise program in the next recording. It seems like a good idea, and it's something I've suggested, but it's got a couple of caveats I want to mention. That's going to be it for this recording, though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.